Maya Hawthorne woke 5 minutes before her alarm, just like always. The small digital clock on the rickety side table blinked. 5:25 a.m. in dull red numbers. Her body no longer needed the shrill beeping to pull her from sleep. Some internal clock, forged by necessity and exhaustion, had taken over. For the past year and a half, this had been her rhythm: rise before the world, move quietly, survive another day. She eased herself off the sagging couch that doubled as her bed. The springs gave a faint metallic groan despite her careful movements. She froze, listening toward the thin wall that separated the living room from her, Mother's bedroom. Steady breathing, slow, even. No ragged gasps, no sudden snorts, no panicked whimpers that signaled the beginning of another episode. Maya exhaled through her nose, a tiny sound of relief. Another night without a seizure, another small victory. 18 months earlier, Ruby Hawthorne had still been able to shuffle around the apartment in worn slippers, insisting on folding laundry or chopping vegetables even when her hands shook. She'd laugh at Maya's worried glances and say, "I'm not an invalid yet, baby girl." Then came the first stroke, mild, the doctor said, manageable, but the second one, 3 months ago, had been merciless. Left side paralyzed, speech reduced to slurred fragments. The woman who once sang while ironing now struggled to say her daughter's name. Without tears of frustration pooling in her eyes, Maya padded barefoot to the single window. Outside, Cleveland was still wrapped in pre-dawn black. The street lamp on the corner threw a jaundiced circle of light across fresh snow. Everything looked softer under that glow, less cruel. But Maya knew better. The temperature was probably hovering around 5 degrees Fahrenheit, the kind of cold that burned lungs and made fingers clumsy within minutes. She turned back to the tiny kitchenette. One cupboard door hung slightly crooked. The fridge hummed like an old man complaining about his joints. Inside, half a bag of rolled oats, 2 eggs with cracked shells, a stick of margarine that had maybe 3 days left, and the last of the generic peanut butter. Enough for today, barely. She set a small pot of water on the single working burner and measured, oats with the same careful attention. Most people reserved for expensive recipes. While it cooked, she wrote the daily note in large, clear block letters on a torn piece of notebook paper. "Mama, heat this in the microwave. 2 minutes. Pills in the blue box. Take 2 after eating. Water is already poured. I'll be home by 3. Love you more than anything. Maya." She placed the bowl, spoon, pills, and glass on the small rolling tray they kept beside the bed. Ruby could reach most things if she tried hard enough. Some days she managed. Other days Maya came home to find the food untouched, and her mother staring blankly at the ceiling, after washing her face with water so cold it made her gasp. Maya dressed in the only clean work outfit left. Black jeans, faded at the knees, white button-up blouse, 1 button missing near the hem, and the same pair of sneakers she'd been wearing for 2 winters. In the hallway mirror, she caught her reflection and winced. Pale skin, purple shadows under hazel eyes, dark brown hair scraped back into a low, messy ponytail. 26 years old, going on 35. She looked away quickly. No time for self-pity. Coat, scarf, gloves with holes in 2 fingers, keys. She locked the door behind her as quietly as possible and started down the stairwell. The elevator had been under repair for 67 days. She'd stopped counting officially, but the number lived in her head anyway. Outside, the cold slapped her face like an open hand. Snow crunched under each step. Her breath plumed white and disappeared. The 20-minute walk to the Rusty Spoon felt longer every day, as if the distance itself was growing tired of her. She thought about money the whole way. Paycheck was supposed to come last Friday. Garrett Vance had promised next week for sure. That meant tomorrow, maybe. Mama's blood pressure medicine cost $42 for 2 weeks. Maya had $43 in her wallet, every tip from the last 3 days scraped together. Plus the emergency $20 she kept folded inside an old bus pass. If the check didn't come, she'd have to choose medicine or rent. Again, the Rusty Spoon sat on the ground floor of a tired red brick building on the edge of the west side. Once 2 separate storefronts. The owner had knocked out the dividing wall years ago and created a long, narrow space, 6'4" top tables, a 12-stool counter, open kitchen visible behind a half wall, checkered vinyl tablecloths, framed skyline photos yellowing at the edges, fluorescent lights that buzzed when the voltage dipped. Nothing Instagram-worthy? But the locals came anyway. Construction crews, retirees, third-shift workers getting off, nurses on break. Enough to keep the lights on. Barely. Maya turned the key in the front door at 5:48 a.m. The lock was sticky. She had to jiggle it, Inside smelled like old coffee grounds, yesterday's gravy, and something faintly sweet, probably, the cinnamon rolls Mama Louise had left uncovered again. She flicked on the lights. Hung coat, tied apron, routine activated. Coffee machine first, industrial bun that took forever to heat. Then wipe every table even though she'd wiped them at close last night. Straighten chairs, check fridge inventory, refill sugar caddies, fold napkins, all before the official 7 a.m. opening. At 6:12, a soft tap came against the front window. Maya startled, almost dropping the coffee pot. Who in the world? Through the frost-rimed glass, she saw him, Silas Thorne. Tall, stooped, army surplus jacket patched in 3 places, gray knit cap pulled low. Face reddened by wind and years outdoors, but eyes sharp, almost military in their alertness. He lifted a gloved hand in a small wave. Maya pointed toward the alley side door. Silas nodded and disappeared around the corner. She hurried to the back entrance, cracked it open, and let him slip inside just far enough to block the wind. He smelled of cold air and old tobacco, but not alcohol. Never alcohol. That was one of the first things she'd noticed about him 4 months ago. Didn't reek of the bottle like so many others who drifted through the alley. Without a word, she went to the reach-in cooler. Pulled out yesterday's beef stew. Still good, she'd made sure. Ladled a generous portion into a takeout container. Added 3 thick slices of white bread and 2 day-old blueberry muffins. She snapped the lid shut and handed it over. Silas accepted it with both hands, the way someone receives something sacred. "Thank you, girl," he said quietly. His voice carried the gravel of too many cigarettes and too many winters. But it was always polite. "God bless you." "Don't mention it, Mr. Thorne. Eat while it's still warm. The Lord sees kindness like yours. He'll reward it." Maya ducked her head, cheeks warming. The first few times he'd said things like that, she'd felt awkward, unsure how to respond. Now she just nodded and smiled a little. "You stay safe out there today," she said. "It's bitter. I'll find a warm spot. Don't worry about old Silas." He paused, studying her face. "How's your mama?" "Same, needs new meds soon. Money's tight." He held her gaze a moment longer, long enough that Maya felt seen in a way. Most people never bothered to see her. Then he nodded once, tucked the container inside his jacket, and stepped back into the snow. Maya closed and locked the door, leaned against it for a second, and breathed. Something about Silas always steadied her, even though he was the one living on the street. By 6:55, the first regular arrived, Mr. Henderson, 81, always black coffee and a plain bagel, always exact change. Then Mrs. Gable, wanting her vanilla latte and a bran muffin. Then the construction crew, 6 loud men in Carhartt jackets, ordering everything fried. The morning rush swallowed her whole. Orders flew. Plates clattered. Mama Louise shouted, "Behind!" Every time she moved from grill to pass-through. Maya ran. Coffee, eggs over easy. Hash browns, crispy, extra toast, no problem. "Sorry that took so long." Smile, smile, smile. Around 10:30, a man in a leather jacket snapped his fingers at her. "Hey, waitress, this coffee's cold." Maya glanced at the cup. She'd poured it less than 4 minutes ago. "I'm so sorry, sir. I'll get you a fresh one right away." "Probably too busy scrolling on your phone," he muttered under his breath. She bit the inside of her cheek hard enough to taste copper and went to pour a new cup. Mama Louise caught her eye through the pass window. "They being asses again?" "Same as always. You got the patience of a saint, baby." I'd have told him exactly where to put that cup. "I need the job," Maya said simply. She delivered the fresh coffee. The man didn't thank her, didn't even look up. Outside the window, snow fell thicker now, fat, wet flakes sticking to the glass. Maya wondered where Silas had gone. Had he found somewhere out of the wind? At least he'd eaten today. Noon brought Garrett Vance, large belly straining the buttons of his sheepskin coat, alligator boots polished to a gleam, face flushed the color of cheap burgundy. He stormed in like he was inspecting a battlefield. "Busy today?" He barked at Maya. "Yes, sir. Steady since open." He yanked open the register, thumbed through bills, scowled. "Numbers are shit. Why?" "Mostly breakfast specials. People aren't adding extras." "Then sell extras, desserts, refills, upsell." "Maya, I'm not paying you to stand around looking pretty." She said nothing. There was no winning with him. He ran a fat finger along the windowsill, held it up. "Dust. Disgusting. Customers sit in filth. Because you can't do basic cleaning?" "I wiped it 2 days ago." 2 days? What about today? Hands fall off?" Maya swallowed everything she wanted to scream. "I'll clean it now." "Damn right you will. And move faster. This isn't a charity." He stomped to the back office. Maya counted to 10, then 20. Her knuckles ached from clenching. The afternoon crawled. Lunch rush, slow lull. Another rush. Legs throbbing, lower back screaming. One stolen minute sitting on an overturned crate in the dry storage, eyes closed, breathing. Maya, table 6. Up again, plate in hand. Smile on face. At 3:07 her phone buzzed, home number. She stepped into the alcove near the bathrooms and answered. Maya, sin out. Ruby's voice thick and broken. Maya's heart lurched. I'm coming, Mama, I'll get it, hang on. She ran to Vance's office door, knocked once. Mr. Vance, can I leave a little early? My mom's medicine. Shift ends at 6. Who covers if you leave? Please, she's out of pills. Her pressure, everybody's got problems. Maya, rent, taxes, payroll. You think I sit here for fun? Finish your shift. Tears burned. She blinked them back, nodded, returned to the floor. The next 3 hours were torture. Every minute she pictured Ruby alone, struggling to breathe, pressure climbing. At 6 not exactly, she ripped off her apron, grabbed her coat and ran. 10 blocks to the pharmacy. Slipping on ice. Lungs burning. Burst through the door, gasping. Capoten, 2 packs, please. Prescription? She shoved the crumpled paper across. The pharmacist moved in slow motion, checked, disappeared, returned. $42. Maya counted. 43. Every last dollar. She paid, clutched the bag, ran home. Ruby was propped up, breathing hard, eyes frightened. Maya knelt, hugged her carefully, kissed her forehead. I'm here. I've got it. Right now. Pill, water, gentle back rub. Whispered reassurances. Gradually, the breathing eased. Maya sat on the floor beside the bed until Ruby slept. Only then did she let her own body collapse against the wall. Exhausted, terrified, wondering how many more days she could keep doing this. And in the back of her mind, the quiet figure in the alley, Silas, watching. The diner with eyes that saw too much. The next morning arrived like every other, cold, relentless, and far too early. Maya's eyes snapped open. At 5:25 a.m. again. The apartment was silent except for the low wheeze of the radiator in the corner that never quite heated the place. She lay still for a long minute, staring at the water-stained ceiling, replaying Silas's words from the night before. Tomorrow morning, you are not to be the first one to open that diner. Do you hear me? Don't come in early. Show up late on purpose. Let someone else open the door. His voice had carried a weight she'd never heard from him before. Urgent. Almost commanding. Not the gentle gratitude she was used to. Something else. Fear? Determination? Both? She sat up slowly. The couch springs protested. She rubbed her face, trying to shake the fog of half-sleep. Why would he say that? What could possibly happen if she opened on time? Her first instinct was to dismiss it. Silas was kind, but he was also a man who lived in alleys and abandoned warehouses. Maybe the cold had finally gotten to him. Maybe he'd seen something that wasn't there. Paranoia was common on the streets. She'd heard stories from other homeless folks who swore the government was watching through streetlights. But then she remembered his eyes, clear, focused, not the cloudy gaze of someone lost to drink or despair. Those eyes had seen things, done things. She'd always sensed it, even if he never spoke of his past. Maya stood, padded to the kitchenette, started the oatmeal the same way she always did, wrote the note in the same block letters, placed everything on the tray beside her mother's bed. Ruby stirred when Maya kissed her forehead. Maya? Early? The words came slow, thick. Same time, Mama. Go back to sleep. Ruby's good hand lifted weakly, touched Maya's cheek. Careful. I will. She dressed, coat, scarf, gloves, keys. But when she reached the door, she stopped. Silas's voice echoed again. Don't be the one to turn that key. Her hand hovered over the knob. If she went now, she'd arrive by 5:50, same as always. Vance would never know she'd considered being late. Jordan wouldn't have to wait in the snow. Everything would be normal. But something deep in her gut, some instinct. She didn't even know she had whispered that normal might kill her today. She exhaled sharply, turned, walked back to the couch, and sat. Pulled out her phone, set a new alarm for 7 a.m., wrapped herself in the quilt, closed her eyes. She didn't sleep. She counted heartbeats, listened to the building creak, pictured Vance's red face yelling about tardiness, pictured the register short again, pictured her mother's medicine bottle empty. But she stayed. At 6:45, her phone rang. Jordan. Maya, where the hell are you? I've been standing out here freezing my ass off for 45 minutes. I'm so sorry, Jordan. She made her voice small, guilty. My alarm didn't go off. Mama had a bad night. Couldn't get back to sleep after. I'm leaving now. 20 minutes, tops. This is bullshit. I can't keep covering your open every time you oversleep. I know, it won't happen again, promise. He muttered something she didn't catch and hung up. Maya dressed again, this time slower. Left the apartment at 7:05, walked without hurrying. The cold felt different today, sharper, as if the air itself knew something she didn't. When she turned onto West Avenue, the scene hit her like a fist. Police cruisers lined both sides of the street, lights pulsing blue and red against the snow. A fire truck, an ambulance, yellow caution tape stretched across the sidewalk in front of the Rusty Spoon. A small crowd of early risers stood huddled together, breath clouding, murmuring. Maya's legs moved on their own. She pushed through. Mr. Henderson stood near the tape, clutching his wool cap. "Maya!" His voice cracked with relief. "Thank God, you're alive." What happened?" "Bomb." The word landed like a stone, right under the front door. Police showed up out of nowhere. Bomb squad went in. They just carried out some kind of device in a big metal box. Said it was set to go off the second someone opened the door. Maya's knees buckled. She caught herself on a parking meter. "Bomb? Rigged to the threshold. They said if you'd turned the key at 6, like always." He trailed off, shaking his head. "You'd be gone, girl." Just like that. A young uniformed officer approached, notepad in hand.
"Ma'am, do you work here?"
Maya nodded, throat too tight to speak. "Name?" "Maya Hawthorne." "You the regular opener?" "Every day." 6 sharp. He wrote it down, looked at her closely. "Why were you late this morning?" She hesitated. Silas's face flashed in her mind, grave, pleading. "My alarm didn't go off. Overslept." The officer's eyes narrowed slightly, but he didn't push. "You're damn lucky, Ms. Hawthorne. If you'd been on schedule, we'd be zipping you into a body bag right now." He walked away. Maya sank to the curb, arms wrapped around her knees. Snow soaked through her jeans. She didn't feel it. Silas knew. He'd known. A plain gray sedan pulled up. 2 men in suits stepped out. Badges flashed. The older one, 50s, mustache, calm eyes, spoke briefly to the uniform, then walked straight to Maya. "Maya Hawthorne? Detective Holloway, Major Crimes." He crouched to her level. "I need to ask you some questions." "You up for it?" She nodded. He pulled out a small recorder. "You've worked at the Rusty Spoon how long?" 18 months, waitress." "Owner?" "Garrett Vance." "Notice anything strange lately? Unusual visitors? Late night activity? Anything off with Vance himself?" Maya's mind raced back. Vance had been edgier the past few weeks, snapping faster, checking the register obsessively, whispering into his phone in the back lot. Men coming through the service door after close, big men. Leather jackets, never staying long, never ordering food. "Some guys," she said slowly. "They'd come in after hours, through the back. I never saw their faces clearly. They stayed in the shadows. Maybe 3-4 times in the last couple weeks." Holloway nodded, as if that fit something he already suspected. "Ever go in the basement storage?" "Yes, flour, sugar, dry goods. See anything unusual down there?" "The blue bags, 5, maybe 6 days ago. I was pulling a pallet of flour and noticed some bags behind it. Big blue ones, sealed tight. I thought maybe extra stock Vance was hoarding. Didn't open them." "Did Vance see you come up from the basement that day?" She swallowed. "Yes, he was standing at the top of the stairs. Asked what I was doing. I said getting flour. He stared at me a long time. After that, he watched me more, always on his phone in the yard, whispering." Holloway exchanged a look with his partner. "Maya, those bags were heroin. At least 20 kilos. Pure. The diner was a distribution point. Vance and his crew were using the basement as a stash house. When he realized you might have seen something, he decided to eliminate the risk." Eliminate? The word tasted like metal. They rigged an explosive under the door frame. Small charge, enough to kill whoever opened first. They planned to call it a gas leak. Clean. No investigation. You were the target because you were always first in. Maya covered her mouth. Tears came fast. "How did you know?" "About the bomb? Anonymous call. 5:30 this morning. Male voice. Gave exact location, exact trigger. Said check the threshold. We rolled bomb squad immediately. Disarmed it 10 minutes before you were supposed to arrive."
"Silas."
It had to be Silas. She looked around the crowd, hoping to see the familiar army jacket, the gray cap. Nothing. Detective Holloway stood. "We're executing a search warrant now. Vance is in the wind, but we'll find him. You're a key witness, Maya. We'll need a full statement. And you'll be eligible for victim compensation. Emotional distress, cooperation, could be substantial." She barely heard him. All she could think was Silas saved me, and now he was gone. The rest of the day blurred. Statements, photos, walking Holloway. Through the basement, to point out exactly where the bags had been. Officers in gloves slicing them open, white powder spilling like snow. 20 kilos, Holloway muttered. That's life without parole right there. Maya answered every question, signed every form, numb. Around 3, they released her. She walked home. No bus fare. Needed the air anyway. Halfway there, she stopped against a brick wall and let the sobs come. Quiet, private, the full weight crashing down. They'd planned to kill her, erase her, because she might talk. If not for Silas. At home, Ruby was awake, TV on low. Maya, slurred, worried. Maya forced a smile. I'm okay, Mama. Everything's okay now. She fed her mother, gave pills, sat by the window as dusk fell. Where was Silas? She needed to find him, needed to say thank you, needed to know why he'd risked everything for her. That night she barely slept. The next morning she went back to the diner, now cordoned off. Crime scene tape flapping in the wind. She asked around the neighborhood. Checked the alley, the abandoned warehouse basement. Mattress gone. Blankets gone. Small pile of rags he'd used as a pillow, gone. It was as if he'd never been there. She asked the other street folks who sometimes shared the space. Haven't seen Silas since yesterday morning, one said. Packed up quick! Looked spooked. Maya's heart sank. He'd disappeared to protect himself, or maybe to protect her. She wouldn't stop looking. Every evening after work, except there was no work now, she walked the alleys, checked bus stops, soup kitchens, under bridges. Nothing. Days turned into a week. The investigation moved fast. Vance was arrested at a motel 2 counties over, trying to skip town. The 2 men who'd planted the device were picked up in a traffic stop, traces of explosive residue on their hands and tools in the trunk. The ring crumbled. Maya gave more statements, signed more papers. Then came the call from Holloway. Maya, compensation approved. $85,000. Direct deposit in 3 business days. You'll also qualify for witness relocation funds if needed. But Vance's crew is done. $85,000. She stared at the phone long after he hung up. Enough to pay every bill. Enough for Mama's medicine for years. Enough for a new start. And it was all because Silas had seen, had listened, had acted. She sat on the couch that night with her notebook, pen in hand. She wrote 1 line at the top of a fresh page. Find Silas. Under it, she began to plan. She would search every shelter, every VA outreach, every place a veteran might go. Because Silas wasn't just a homeless man anymore. He was family now, whether he knew it or not. 2 weeks passed like a slow thaw after a long winter. Maya walked the same routes every evening after the sun dropped below the skyline. Alleys behind the old textile mill, the loading docks near the river, the chain-link fence that bordered the rail yard, where men sometimes built fires in oil drums. She carried a paper bag each time, sandwich, apple, thermos of coffee, just in case. No Silas. His basement in the abandoned warehouse stood empty. The mattress was gone. The candle stubs, the neatly folded blankets, the small stack of paperback books he sometimes read under streetlight, vanished. Even the faint smell of hand-rolled tobacco had faded. She asked everyone who might know. A woman who sold loose cigarettes near the bus depot shook her head. Silas? Packed up fast that morning. Looked like he saw a ghost. Haven't seen him since. A veteran who panhandled outside the VA clinic on Lorraine Avenue said the same. Good man, Silas, quiet, kept to himself. If he's gone, he don't want to be found. Maya refused to believe he'd simply disappeared forever. She had questions. She had gratitude so big it hurt her chest. And she had $85,000 sitting in her bank account, money. That felt like it belonged to both of them. On the 15th day, she sat at a bus stop on West 25th. The one with the cracked bench and the flickering advertisement for a payday loan company. Snow had melted into gray slush. She was tired. Not just body tired, soul tired. The adrenaline of survival had worn off, leaving only the ache of almost dying and the sharper ache of almost losing someone who'd given her a second chance at life. She looked up. Across the street, on the opposite bench under a leafless maple, sat a tall figure in a familiar patched army jacket. Gray knit cap pulled low. Shoulders straight despite everything.
Silas.
He was staring at the traffic, lost in thought. A paper cup of something hot rested between his gloved hands. Maya stood so fast the bench creaked. She crossed against the light, heart hammering. Cars honked. She didn't care. When she reached him, he looked up. Surprise flickered across his weathered face. Then something softer, relief, maybe even joy. Girl, he said quietly. Mr. Thorne. She stopped a few feet away, suddenly shy. Tears burned. I've been looking everywhere. He set the cup down, stood slowly, put one hand on her shoulder, gentle, steady. "You're alive," he said. That's all I needed to know. "How did you know?" "About the bomb?" He sighed, looked around once, then patted the bench. "Sit, I'll tell you." They sat side by side. The city moved around them, buses groaning, horns, distant sirens. Silas spoke low, deliberate. "I couldn't sleep that night. Back hurt, cold settling in the bones. Around 3, a car door slammed. Black SUV, Vance's. 3 men got out. Vance and 2 others, big, moving like professionals. No lights on in the diner. They went in. 5 minutes later, Vance left alone. The other 2 stayed. Maya listened, breath shallow. I waited. Then I crept over. Service door was cracked. Heard them talking. "Trigger tomorrow morning. Under the threshold." "She's always first in." She saw the stash. "Cleanest way, accident." He paused, his jaw tightened. I knew what they meant. I was combat engineer. 8 years. Gulf War. Cleared mines. IEDs. You learn to hear danger before it speaks. I knew the device was pressure sensitive. Door opens, boom. Small blast, but enough. They'd call it gas leak. Case closed. Maya's hands trembled in her lap. "You could have gone to the police right then." "Who'd believe a homeless vet?" "They'd think I planted it. Or they'd lock me up for the night and let the real bomb sit there." So I waited till they left at 5. Then I used an old burner phone I kept buried in my pack. Called 911, told them exactly where and how. Hung up, pulled the SIM, walked away. Why disappear after? Loose ends. Vance's people might come looking. Police might want to talk. I didn't want my name anywhere near it. Didn't want them dragging you into questions about some street guy who just happened to know too much. Maya wiped her eyes. "You saved my life. You saved mine first. 4 months of food. No questions, no pity. You looked at me like I was still a man. That's rarer than you think." She reached over and took his hand. Old, calloused, scarred. "I'm getting compensation. 85,000. And there's more. The state has programs for witnesses, for veterans. I talked to Detective Holloway. If you give a statement, tell them what you saw, what you did. They can get you help. Housing, medical, a reward check. Real money. A new start." Silas looked away. Across the street, a bus hissed to a stop. "I don't do well with systems," he said. "Been burned too many times." "I know, but this time it's different. You're not asking for charity. You earned it. You stopped a murder. You broke a drug ring. That's not nothing." Long silence. Then quietly, "All right, for you, girl, I'll try." They met Holloway at the station 3 days later. Silas had shaved, combed his hair, wore the same jacket, but it looked less like armor now. Maya stayed close, arm linked through his. Holloway listened to the full story, took notes, made calls, ran Silas's social through the VA database. Thorne, Silas R. combat engineer, 2 tours, Purple Heart, medical discharge after shrapnel injury. Records clean. Silas stared at the floor. Holloway leaned forward. "You give us a formal statement. We can push for a citizen's reward. 10,000 minimum from the department. VA can fast-track housing, rehab if needed, medical. You'll have a roof, food, doctors, no strings." Silas looked at Maya. She nodded. He signed. A week later, Holloway called Maya. Paperwork cleared. Silas gets 120,000 reward, higher because of the explosives expertise and direct tip. Transitional housing starts next month. Permanent VA apartment after that. He's in a program now. Getting checked out, therapy, sobriety support. Maya cried on the phone, thanked him until her voice cracked. She called Silas next. He was quiet a long time. Then, "Girl, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Just live." The Kind Heart Cafe opened 6 weeks later. Small space, 4 tables, whitewashed walls, thrift store chairs Maya sanded and painted herself. Curtains from a garage sale. A hand-painted sign above the door, the Kind Heart Cafe. Silas came every day during setup. Fixed wiring, built shelves, painted trim. Worked in the same precise, economical way he must have once diffused bombs. Careful, no wasted motion. Maya watched him one afternoon. Sunlight slanting through the front window, catching the silver in his hair. "Mr. Thorne, you don't have to do all this." He didn't look up from the shelf he was leveling. "You gave me a reason to get up in the morning again. Least I can do is make sure your doors hang straight." Opening day was quiet. First customer, Mr. Henderson. Huge grin. "Maya, your own place. Look at you." "Come in, Mr. Henderson. First 10 eat free." By evening, every table was full. Neighbors, former regulars from the Rusty Spoon, strangers, who'd seen the sign and wandered in. Ruby sat at a special stool behind the counter. Couldn't move much, but she took orders on an iPad, rang up sales, smiled at everyone. Her speech was clearer now, therapy paid for with the compensation money. Customers were patient, kind. Some came just to talk to her. Business grew slowly. Maya baked at 4 a.m., served, cleaned, collapsed at night. But she was happy. One Tuesday, a man walked in with a box of produce samples. Elias Penrose, early 30s, clean flannel shirt, quiet confidence. Local farms, no chemicals, better price than the wholesale market. Maya tasted, bought. He came back twice a week. They talked longer each time. About farms, about dreams, about the city. One evening, he stayed after delivery. Coffee? She poured 2 cups. Sat across from him. You're different, he said. How? You built this from nothing, after everything. That's not common. She told him the story, short version. Vance, the bomb, Silas, the money. Elias listened without interrupting. When she finished, he said simply, You're remarkable. She blushed. First time in years she felt seen that way. Friendship grew, then something more. Walks after close, movies, picnics in the park when spring came. 6 months later, he proposed at their usual table. Simple ring, simple words. Maya, I want forever with you. Will you marry me? Yes. The wedding was in the cafe. Tables pushed together. Flowers from the market. Pies Maya baked herself. Ruby at the head, smiling wider than she had in years. Silas stood, raised a glass of sparkling cider. Quiet fell. I've lived hard, he began. Seen war. Lost my wife, lost my boy, lost myself. For years I was invisible. Then this girl fed me, talked to me, treated me like I mattered. When I heard them planning to kill her, I couldn't let it happen. She gave me dignity back. I gave her a tomorrow. We saved each other. His voice cracked. Maya, Elias, be happy. Take care of each other. And remember, kindness always comes home. Everyone cheered. Maya hugged him so tight he chuckled. After the wedding, life found a gentle rhythm. Apartment nearby. Ruby moved in. Part-time caregiver. Cafe thriving. Second location opened a year later. Third the year after, Silas became their unofficial security man. Checked locks, tested alarms, taught the staff basic safety. Maya paid him. He accepted. But mostly he came because he belonged. One winter evening, the 3 of them sat in the original cafe after close. Snow falling outside. Pie on the table. Tea steaming. Maya said, Sometimes I wonder if that bomb hadn't happened. Elias shrugged. You'd still be breaking your back for Vance. Silas nodded. And I'd still be dying slow in that basement. Maya shook her head. One awful thing turned into everything good. Not fate, Silas said. Kindness. You started it. Fed a stranger. I paid it back. You lifted me up. Now we all lift each other. That's how it's supposed to work. 2 years later, Maya gave birth to a daughter. They named her Hope. At the baptism, Silas held the baby. Tears ran down his cheeks. Me? Godfather? Your family, Maya said. No one else could be. The Kind Heart cafes multiplied quietly. Always warm. Always fair-priced. Always kind. On the wall of every location hung the same small plaque. Kindness once sown will always return. And it did. Every day.